there's a lot of information on how to get rich in AI.
I don't think you get rich with AI. My advice is not to think that way, but
Do this, do that, do this, do that.
I think the riches are still in the niches, and with AI, it's more true than ever. What you want to know, first of all, is what are you good at? What are the things that make you unique?
So there's a lot of information on how to get rich in AI. Do this, do that, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. Sell this, sell that, do this with ChatGPT. And the question is, how do you actually get rich with AI? And then how do you not get rich with AI? That's the idea behind this podcast. So to start off, like, how would I get rich in AI? What would be the game plan, for example?
I don't think you get rich with AI. You get rich by solving rich people's problems. You get rich by finding a painful problem that someone is willing to pay you for, and you go solve it. Whether you use AI or whether you use good old software, or it's a product or a service, that's what makes you rich. Now, the mechanics of AI is a little bit different. It's, first of all, getting rich is about getting distribution. So what AI enables you to do is to get that distribution much faster. So think of AI-generated ads. Think of AI-generated content. So if I'm able to leverage AI to build the product quickly, use AI to promote it quickly, that's what it is.
I've seen some ads where it's like image generation with ChatGPT, like the Studio Ghibli thing. It's like $10 to do a Studio Ghibli picture, but that's just a prompt, right?
Probably.
And I've also seen like people suggesting that spamming AI content on YouTube can also be like a viable business model with AI as well.
That, I know that YouTube is starting to crack down on that, as long as it works. I think that's the takeaway. As long as you're able to make something work. And I think a lot of people get stuck thinking of fancy ideas as opposed to look for problems. But if you look for a problem and then apply AI to solve it, you have a business.
The question is, like, how do you solve problems with AI?
How do you solve problems with AI? First of all, identify the problem. And the kind of problems that LLMs are really good at solving is taking unstructured data, right? Things we say, text on a page, pictures, videos, being able to take this that was very difficult to allow the machine to comprehend and turning it from that unstructured data into structured data that allows you to do meaningful things with it. A good example of that is, a medical scribe. So a medical scribe is nothing but a microphone. You take that input in, and then you convert it to text. But then from that text, you extract meaningful medical information.
And then it also sounds like there can be ways to make people just more efficient in general, like maybe organizational ways, which is kind of data as well. Would you start then some kind of company that would take structured data and then organize with AI? Do you think that'd be worth it?
Yes, but I think you have to be specific here, right? I think the riches are still in the niches, and with AI, it's more true than ever. Because it's due to the way LLMs work, the more specific you are, the better. The more specific the model, the more specific the prompt, and that specificity translated into marketing lingo is niching down, right? Why would you not want to niche down? Because if you want to try to tackle a bigger use case, right? Let's take a kind of concrete example of this. Let's say I want to build HR software. And let's say I want to build an AI HR software from scratch. HR software is not one thing. HR, for example, there's regulations country by country, right? And then the HR needs of an enterprise are very different than the HR needs of a small business. That difference is, first of all, difference in the price point of a product, but it's also difference in the features, capabilities, security, compliance. So my advice is not to think that way. But if you are an entrepreneur, what you want to know, first of all, is what are you good at? What are the things that make you unique? And so it all starts with self-reflection. So if I take inventory of my skill sets, what is it that I know and where I sit in the world, I think that will give you a much better defensibility than trying to tackle a space that you don't understand. And this is more true with AI than with anything else. So the more you understand a business area or a domain, the better of a product you're able to build for it, and the more of use cases that you're able to cover. Because one, you understand, Peter Thiel calls this secrets, right? So if I think about Shukri as an example, and where he sits in the world. So Shukri has this technology knowledge, AI knowledge, but he also has the medical knowledge. So can Shukri go into HR? Of course, but if I want to maximize my strengths, right? There is only so many people in the world who are good at AI and business and healthcare together.
Combined.
And that intersection is what gives you defensibility, first of all. And that's what Peter Thiel calls secrets, because if you are coming from, so let's start with, to make money, you have to sell a customer. That's a person. And that person, depending on where that person sits, has specific needs around the product. And so if you don't understand that person and their hopes, fears, and dreams and what's urgent for them today, then you will not be able to sell them anything, right? So if I come to you, Benny, and I say, hey, you're our host, you're a content producer, and I'm trying to sell you software that, let's say, makes audio better, but you do video, you might be like, not interested, right? But if this is a terrible example. Hold on, let me think through this one.
Well, I think secrets is a great point, that in order to sell into an industry, you kind of have to understand that industry, which a lot of people, you parachute founders, they want to jump in and develop it. And it's if you do have those secrets and you're in the industry and you have a grasp of AI and you want to build that AI, how would you even get started? Like, because that's the question. If you want to get rich, you have to even get started in the first place, building your product. I know there's MVPs.
Yes.
How do you even test the market? How do you get customers, right?
And it all goes down to problems, because if I want to give you a recipe for a startup, I would say start by looking at who am I, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and what are the secrets I know about the world. And I'll tie this to something I like to always say. The niche is not static. A market is not static. If I go into any business today, right, the macro climate, what's happening in the economy, the interest rates, regulations in that industry, evolution in that industry, new types of material coming up, all of these things are always dynamic and always shifting and changing. If you're coming from outside, you have no idea what these things are in the first place. So you cannot really speak my language because you don't know what my problems are, right? If I go to healthcare right now, if I go to pharma right now, pharma is worried about certain things. Hey, the US government trying to bring the cost of medicine down. If you're outside of that niche, you have no idea this is happening, right? So you're coming to the pharma right now to sell them on the next big thing, while their pain point is, how do I get more drugs out? How do I ship more? How do I get more patients? You're not speaking their same language. You don't understand them. And so if you come to me to sell me anything, when you didn't understand me, I'm not going to buy.
And when you do launch that first product in the niche that you understand, there's the MVP, the minimum viable product. And I know that there's a lot of stories about MVPs that are not actually, they're like there's the minimum viable product and then there's the minimal viable product. Is it a good idea to do the bare minimum for your MVP, like to the point where you're effectively lying about your product, pitching a product that isn't ready, pitching a product that doesn't exist yet?
You have to do some of that to some extent, right? And I think that's what is unique about startups. That's different, and especially for startups that are entering a new space or creating a new space. So
I know you've given me some examples of MVPs in the past.
So if I want to think about, there is the MVP and there is kind of pre-MVP. And a good example of that was Dropbox. So when Dropbox started, they had no product. Their MVP was a YouTube video that it was just an illustration video that says, hey, here's all the cool things you can do. You can store files in the cloud, and keep in mind, they were in a time where there was no cloud.
Yeah.
So, hey, you can store your files easily. And all they did is tease out the things that you can do with this new product. And if people saw it and people liked it, they signed up. They didn't have a product. They didn't have to have a product. All it takes sometimes is just a landing page, right?
Have you ever done MVPs yourself?
Yes.
Can you give some examples, or is that sort of...
No, I can give you MVPs that, like, I launched at least 4 or 5 startups for myself before I did this for a living. So my first startup was, my first failed startup was 2010. I landed in Canada. I was working, at Telcocell, and I was a new immigrant, and I found that immigration process and the whole kind of CIC website very, very confusing and cumbersome. So I decided to build an immigration app. Give it a terrible name. I called it iWiz app, and I'm like,
I've never heard of this story before.
I know it's a new one, and so what I did is, I took 3 months, built the mobile app, and I launched it. And of course, at the time, I didn't know anything about sales, marketing, any of that. So first day, I got 5 users. Second day, 3 more users. I'm like, yes, this is working. Then by week 2, crickets. So then I'm like, hold on. So I spent 3 months building something, 5, 6 people paid me $1 each, $1.99 on App Store. And now that's it, it's done. And then I'm like, okay, so I think I'm missing something. How do I get people to find the app and download it and take action? And that's what's hard about the product. It's not building the product. At least for me as a techie, that's the easiest thing in the world. The hardest thing is to build something that people want. And so at the end of the day, it all boils down to knowing the people and their needs.
Which goes back to being in the industry and secrets and all these things.
Yep.
So if you had a product, then that's a great question, whatever it be, an AI product or just a tech product, how do you get customers for a startup?
So problems. So we talked about find the problem. A customer describes the problem with words. So what we do is we do what we call problem discovery. So before I go to a customer or a potential customer and sell them anything, so if I have this idea or thesis about a problem, the first thing I want to validate is, does this problem truly exist? How big is the problem? Does the person or whoever my buyer is, do they have enough money to pay for it, right? There's a lot of problems that exist in the world that will continue to exist, not because there is any restrictions or limitations on the technology or bringing the product to market. It's the reality of the market itself that it cannot sustain it, right? There's a lot of small businesses that need a lot of things, but the reality is how many of them have money to pay, right? If 50 to 60% of those businesses fail or don't make money, don't even break even, it's just not a great market to be in.
Got it. So what you're saying is if the problem's big enough, they will pay.
If the problem is severe and big enough, absolutely they will pay.
Can you give me some examples of products that kind of sucked or didn't solve for pain? Like bad products?
Well, there's websites and websites that list all of the dead startups. There's millions of them.
I guess there's a lot more dead startups
There's a lot
than there
more.
are.
There's 90% more by definition.
I know that even growing up, you always met kids who were very inspired by Y Combinator and stuff, and they'd be like, I want to create my AI product. And you'd be like, what's your product? And it'd be like, it's X, but with X. And it's Uber, but for bikes.
For dogs.
For dogs. It's Facebook, but for dogs. And I always feel like if you need to use another product to explain your product, it's probably a nice to have because it already exists.
I agree. And I think it goes back to founder clarity. I think if you're able to put the problem into words and words that resonate, there's something my mentor taught me that he calls problem language and solution language. So as a solution provider, I might describe the product or service in a certain way. But those words I use, if they're not the same as the words that the customer will use to describe the problem or what they want out of the solution, then there is no resonance. And if there is no resonance, there is no buying, right? Like, I don't trust you. If you don't, and one thing that has held true for me over and over is this. If you're able to put the problem of your customer into words much better than they're able to do, you got them. You're done. The job is done. And so, because that tells me you understand me. You understand exactly what the problem is. And therefore, that gives me confidence that whatever you have to tell me next is going to actually solve my problem. But if you're not able, and this goes to positioning, this goes to copy on a page, right? Problems are, if I want to kind of break it step by step, problems, customers describe them with words. If you take these words and turn them into copy that goes into your ads, that goes into your videos, that goes into kind of your landing pages, then step one is done. You have resonance. And the same exact words to describe the problem, you can take them to the product domain and turn into features, right? And so let's take a simple example. Accounting software, right? There's two big accounting software right now, QuickBooks and Xero, and everybody needs accounting. Everybody needs to sell their books. It's the reality of life. You have to pay your taxes. You have to know what you owe and what you're owed. And so, big problem. Everybody has it. But again, there's segmentation in the market, right? Big companies have very different accounting needs. Small companies have different. And so being able to articulate what the problem is, hey, you need your books done for you, right? So cool idea, AI accounting software. That would be awesome, man. Do I need a bookkeeper? Maybe not. Because what does my bookkeeper do at the end of the day? All he's doing is sifting through transactions and figuring out where to allocate them.
And then ideally, you would be yourself an accountant who has insight into the industry and has connections in the industry. You know the niche market, and then from there, you'd be able to sell this product.
And why is that? Because first of all, if I want to build an accounting product, I better damn well know the accounting rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So
I'll just figure it out as I go.
you could, but then there's a lot of gaps and you're going to be up for a lot of surprises. And here's the thing though. An outsider can win, but for an outsider of an industry, for someone who has no secrets to win, he actually has to go and immerse themselves in that industry, to learn the industry, to learn the lingo, to learn the secrets.
And for how long would you say?
6 months to a year.
6 months to a year? That makes sense.
Right? And take another example. Every industry have terms, and those terms have meaning only within that industry. I'll take an example. CMO. If I go into any medical organization, a CMO is Chief Medical Officer.
Chief Marketing Officer.
Yeah. So you go into any other organization that does marketing, that's a Chief Marketing Officer. So you have the same word, different context, means different things. And so every industry have jargon, have lingo. And if you don't speak that lingo, your words are not going to resonate.
It's true. Like if you were on a sales call with someone selling you something and they didn't even understand what you were saying, you probably wouldn't be very confident to buy their product.
Right? And even if you bring a new sales guy, right? The first thing you have to teach him is that lingo, is what to say, what do these people expect, right?
Yeah.
So for you to sell medical, you have to understand, a patient and appointments and, revenue cycle management. And so these are terms that, if I didn't know that in the medical industry, billing is called RCM, and you call it billing, you might confuse the clinic about, okay, which...
Or you said customers.
Or customers.
How are your customers? Customers, you're my patients.
Patients, right? and again, that's a great example, because if you use the word customer, you automatically, immediately alienate anyone who's in the medical industry.
Yeah, completely transactional.
One word. And you see the significance of the meaning of it.
Yeah, of course. So then, have you ever been a parachute founder? Have you ever sold something in a niche that you didn't understand? Did it go well, or?
No, it didn't go well. No surprise there, right? My first dabble into AI was that. So many years ago, I built a company called Success AI. And at the time, I understood the industry I sold into.
What year was this?
Success.ai was 2013. No, actually, sorry, post Ericsson acquisition. So Ericsson bought us in 2012.
But I know this is kind of a dumb question.
2015.
Was
2015
was
the
there
time.
even AI in 2015?
Well, yes. There was actually the first generation of AIs. So
What GPT are we at now?
no. These were not large language model based at all.
What were they
No.
based off of?
It's machine learning, but it's kind of more rule based, I would say.
Was it publicly available?
Yeah. And so I built a product. In fact, one of my first customers was City of Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sold it to. So this was the AI chat. If you remember the chatbot, this was the chatbot era, 2015, 2016. So at that time you had Messenger come up with all of these, yes, no replies and quick replies in the Messenger. That was around that time, where everybody was trying to figure out how do I make customer success better. So the main use case for AI back then, surprising, is still the same now.
It's the same. Nothing's
success,
changed,
right? And so how can I service more people with less operational staff?
And what was this chatbot would have been like on a website?
It was embedded into like City of Toronto, small business. So it was incorporated into all of these. I was trying to sell it into the space that I understood, telco. But I lost. I lost to a competitor.
And why did you lose to a competitor? Like what upper hand did they have over you?
I was severely underfunded. So post Ericsson acquisition, took my money and I decided to build my own, and I decided I don't want to raise capital, so I decided to bootstrap it. And so I had, let's call it $200K in cash to spend on the idea. My competitor had $3 or $4 million on their first round. They had some of the best investors in Toronto. By the way, they're here. They're still alive and kicking. Ada.
Oh, really?
Ada.support. So those were my competitor at the time.
And how does that feel like when you reminisce about this story? Like, does this give you pain? Like, are you upset about it?
No, because it's pain plus reflection equals progress, right? It's what that gives me is empathy now. Because if I see a founder struggling, I'm like, hey, I know how this feels and it sucks.
You've been down that road.
I've been there. So it's the lessons that I learned. Like, at the time, it's terrible. I was under a lot of pressure because I'm like, I had no other job. I decided to just not get any income and just work on this. And I hired people and I had no money coming in the door. No VCs, just me. But I can tell you that that was one of the best periods of growth for me, because there is a big mental game that goes on in a founder's head, that and the benefit of everything that I've done to date is that I saw that play out. I saw my anxiety play out. And through that experience, I learned a lot about how I react to certain types of pressure, stress. And I also got to learn a lot about how to bring team members, because my funding was limited. There are some team members that I paid. And then there are some people who I, cajoled them into working with me for free.
Of course.
And the funny thing is
probably someone you know well.
Yeah, it's people I know well. And
Yes.
those are, by the way, some of them who still work with us or work with us today.
Family, I suppose, maybe.
No, not just family.
Not just, but-
Nidal was one of them. Well, Nidal was one of the people I brought on, and he was paid. But then there's other folks who work with us that at the time I convinced them, hey, you have your cushy job, keep it and everything. Would you help me on the side? And what was interesting is that I had to work 10 times as hard to convince them that my idea is viable, versus the people who I paid. They're like, we don't give a damn.
Yeah, there's more
I'm paid,
transactional.
right?
Yeah.
And that's also part of kind of the tough things about the founder journey, to have people who are like, man, I really think you can help me. And they're like, no, don't believe in your vision. Sorry, man, leave me alone. That sucks, right? It sucks to also to have customers who will be like, not gonna buy. This is shit. Get out.
But it solves all your problems. Nah.
No.
Okay, how about this? Come back to me when you have more customers, and then we'll talk. Yeah.
Exactly. So there was a lot of that, especially as a startup, because they're like, a startup walking to an established company, they're like, hey, where's your previous customers? Where's your case studies? Even if I sue you, you're so broke. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that's the interesting thing.
So you bootstrapped, which is always like, this is a big word in tech.
Yeah.
Bootstrapped, it means doing it yourself, basically.
Yeah.
like, do you recommend bootstrapping? Is bootstrapping a good way to get a startup going?
I would say it depends on the type of idea. Some ideas lend themselves very, very well to bootstrapping, and some of them are impossible. For example, if you take there is problems that I call hard engineering problems, hard R&D problems. Tesla. Let's take the Tesla as a car, right? If you are to build a Tesla, this isn't something you can easily bootstrap because you have to invest a ton to R&D the battery technology and R&D all the electronics that go inside. So there is a massive, GPT is a great example of that, in fact, right? So they had to spend billions and billions over how many years until they got the GPT that if they eventually commercialized. But those types of ideas are very rare. Done well, they'll be printing money. Such as, again, OpenAI is a great example of that.
I've been on calls before, and I said, hey, this is a product that someone is being built or is being developed, and they go, hey, I actually know another guy who's building a similar product, and he's offering it for free. And I'm like, well, tell me more. Let me know more about it.
Yeah.
It's a guy who's bootstrapping. He's kind of offering it for free, whereas the other guy maybe has developers, he's charging, he needs money, he needs revenue. And there's kind of two implications, which is one, if you're bootstrapping, you don't have a lot of risk because it's just you, unless you're investing a lot of your own money into the product. But also from a customer perspective, if it's just one guy building this product, maybe even after hours, like he's done his 9 to 5, he starts bootstrapping. It's kind of a risky, don't you think, to work with that? Like, it sounds like you have to almost have developers eventually. Can you bootstrap forever?
Unless you're one. Well, yes. In fact, there's two gigantic companies that did that. MailChimp.
Mm-hmm.
Another one who does Russell Brunson's ClickFunnels. That was bootstrapped. And ClickFunnels today is, I don't know how many $1 million, probably in the hundreds of millions. So there are companies that are, there's a lot of stories like that. Just go dig for them. And all of these companies were bootstrapped.
So bootstrapping, you think, is...
You can bootstrap yourself into 100 million easily.
Okay.
Well, not easily, but yeah.
I'm going to go get my suitcase.
Get started.
Let's go right now. Okay. Fair point. And you have, I guess you've already said, but you have a lot of experience bootstrapping companies as well.
Yes. And a lot of founders that we work with, well, we work with kind of two mixes of founders. There are bootstrap ones, and then there is kind of VC-backed ones. It's very hard to kind of say, VCs suck and kind of just make a whole lump sum statement, or say, bootstrapping is the way to go, or bootstrapping is bad. It is dependent on a lot of things. Where VC money goes bad is when the VC, starts to meddle with the business and it's like, hey, no, this is not the feature. Like, if your VC is dictating the features, good luck to you.
Would you rather bootstrap or go VC personally?
Again, depends. I think it depends on the idea. If I have an idea that I'm going to execute on that needs $1 million or $2 or $5 to get off the ground, maybe VC is the way to go. Keep in mind that gives you also defensibility to some extent, right? Like when I have a war chest of $5 million, there's so much damage that I can do on the brand side, on the marketing side, assuming I know what I'm doing, right?
You can get a polished look, is what you're saying. Like you can make things clean.
More importantly, like the slam dunk use case for taking VC money is growth. So I have a product, it works, I need to just spread it like wildfire. So there is the idea of the unit economics. Like if my unit economics are solid, as in, if I spend $1 to acquire a customer and that customer will bring me $3 in revenue, I'm already cash flow positive. Beautiful. I can probably keep running the way I'm running, and every customer that walks in the door pays me will fund 2 or 3 more customers. I can probably go viral with that, right?
I see what you mean.
Now, I can do it this way, but now it's going to be, if you draw a graph of how many customers you can acquire at any point, right? It's going to be slow. So acquire 1, next month acquire 3, next month 3 times 3, that's 9, and then keep multiplying. Great. But imagine if I take $1 million now from a VC, hammer it all into ads with this unit economics, dude, I'll be in a different place. So if it's going to take me to 100 million, 10 years, this kind of early injection of cash plowed into sales and marketing with solid unit economics will put you there.
You're set.
5-6 years earlier.
Yeah.
It's the speed.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Okay, this is the big question then. How do you get VC funding if you want it? What's the best way?
It's the same way you get customers. that is the counterintuitive thing. How do you get customers? It's the same way you get VCs. What is it?
Well, there's a bunch
you
of
have to
ways to get
understand them.
customers.
Well, you have to understand
fair
them.
enough. Yeah.
What is the VC's problem?
But like,
What is my problem as a VC? Let's look at it this way. What is my problem as a customer? I have a problem, and there are so many solutions or products on the market that solve for that. I'm a VC. I have some money. I need to put it somewhere, and there's a lot of founders on the market that I can give this money to. Okay, so how do I pick? What am I picking for?
you want to find the best idea.
Well, if it depends, because an early stage VC thinks very different than a late stage VC. An early stage VC is not betting on the idea; it's betting on the founder. Because an early stage VC knows the idea itself will have to go through multiple iterations for it to mature, and especially on a first-time founder.
So it's almost like you want to be the guy.
Yes. And what makes you the guy?
What makes you the guy?
A guy with options is the guy.
And what kind of options?
A guy that is talking to one VC is desperate, but a guy who's talking to 10 VCs is a king, right? Because I'm like, hey man, yeah, you know what?
I know that
not
this is kind of common knowledge now, but if you are talking to VCs, like, yeah, there's a lot of interest from some other VCs. It's like, oh, really? Once one VC gets on board, typically, yeah, the dominoes fall.
Paul Graham has a really good article on this. He calls it the investor herd dynamic. And it's true, right? It's and we see this. I've seen this play out in a few rounds where it took us forever to get the first VC, and then you convince one VC to put 10K into something, and that gets the ball rolling because essentially, hey, it's a vote of confidence. And then the other VC will say, hey, wait, nobody has put money with you yet. I don't know, you're not proven to me. And then you tell them, hey, by the way, this guy invested, this guy invested, this guy invested. And they're like, oh, hold on. Take my money.
Yeah.
And then I've seen this play out in very interesting ways where essentially you start a bidding war with VCs.
And like, this might be a dumb question, but how do you find VCs? Like, if you really wanted to have these meetings and talk to VCs, would you do it through connections? Would you do it, like, would you call them, email them?
The same way you find customers, right? How do you find customers? 4 ways. Cold outreach, warm outreach, ads.
Ads,
well, I don't think you're going to do ads, free content. No.
But you could do ads in the way where you're sort of doing promotional material, not like paid advertising, but sort of branding, I guess.
Yeah, and then but pretty much it's the same. So right, so you either warm outreach, which is reach out to your warm network, your friends, your buddies, and say, hey, I'm doing this. I'm interested in raising some money. Do you guys know some VCs? That's a warm intro. Cold is good old pitch them on LinkedIn, chase them via email, go down to their office and annoy them.
But if you're a VC, you must be kind of pissed off with people always trying to get meetings with you and get your money.
They're used to that. It's part of the job.
Okay, so for them it's kind of just
no, and they have no problem to tell you, listen, just go away.
Yeah,
right?
get out of here.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Have you ever pitched a VC before?
All the time, literally.
Did it go well?
I pitched 3 VCs last week.
Oh, really?
I can't say for what company, but yeah.
But was it scary?
No. The first time is, but by now I've done so many.
You're a veteran? Okay, so then what does like a VC pitch look like for a tech startup?
Problem. What is the problem that you're solving? How big is the market for that problem? What is your solution? What kind of team do you have? Like, sell me on you and your team and why you're awesome, right? And then show me your vision and where you're going to go in 5 to 10 years. And then if you kind of lay out that, a lot of, at least my pitches to VCs, is pretty simple. You'll send them usually a pitch deck ahead of time of the idea, which is kind of the problem, the market, all of that. And then usually the call is questions, right? And I find these calls easy because I pretty much know what they're looking for. They're looking for, are you trustworthy to give you my money? If I give you my money, will I ever see it back again? And will I ever see it in the multiple that I expect? And this is the tricky one that I think catches a lot of early stage founders off guard, because the VC is not looking for like a 20% return on money. That's ridiculous. That's stupid. He's losing money. A VC needs 100x, 10x to 100x return. A VC will not invest in anything that does not have the potential. At least a professional VC will not invest in anything that doesn't have the potential to get to 100 million scale. Anything less, not worth it for them to get out of bed.
That's a huge number, though.
That's the number. Professional VCs have to meet that number. And why is that? Because essentially they have a certain, so a VC will go get their money from what's called LPs or liquidity providers.
Okay.
And the VC's job is to allocate that money and get a return for the LPs. And so my job is, first of all, not to waste the money, to allocate it in the right way. And typically the VCs work in quarters. So I might have, $10 million to deploy this quarter, which means everyone who's pitching will have $10 million. And I'm never going to allocate it to one company unless it's a pretty damn company. I'm going to spread it to 10 companies. But then I don't want to spread it. And this is where kind of different VCs have different theses. You have vertical VCs that only invest in healthcare.
It's like a portfolio.
Yes.
You want to have a diversified portfolio of startups in your
Yes,
in
but
your
you
fund.
can also still have sector concentration. So some VCs only work in healthcare sector or only transportation sector. They're more what we call them kind of thematic. But there are other VCs who kind of are more diversified, and they'll get into SaaS and they'll get into AI and into healthcare, and it's a deal by deal basis.
What about like charity? Like, is there anyone who will like? Are there any like? I know they can get Y Combinator funding or something that will invest in you kind of out of the goodness of their heart or the goodness of a program. Or
Well, it's not out of the goodness. They vet founders like crazy. In fact, I love Y Combinator and how they vet. They've seen so many startups that distilled it to a formula. They ask you to send like I think a 2 to 5 minute video. That's it, and that's enough for them to kind of
what's in the video?
talk about yourself and your co-founder for 2-3 minutes.
Sorry, they're more interested in just
People. It's the people.
It makes sense, and I guess with a lot of tech startups, there is always like the CEO, the founder, the boss.
Well, the boss is all they're betting on. That's the betting horse. So it better be the best horse in town. How do you position yourself to be the best horse in town? Have options, know your market, know your customer, know your numbers, understand what makes you unique. And if you have all of these, you've checked the boxes.
And would you say that, just looking at my notes there, my final question is selling harder than building?
It's different. It's a different skill set. Each one of them is a skill set that is hard on its own, but once you've practiced it and you got your reps in, it's all reps in, by the way. Of course, the skill set itself, the knowledge, the kind of foundation is different. Product building, it's not just the tech, right? I think a lot of people think that if I have a developer or if I know how to code, to me, and again, I code, but I think it's not that. It's your user experience. It's the user journey. Do you actually solve the problem? Because you can have the slickest, beautiful, most usable thing that does nothing. And look, I see them every day. Like there are founders who come to us and like, hey, like, why are people not buying my thing? I'm like, what's the problem? What does it solve? What does it do? You built a nice thing, just doesn't do anything.
A nice to have.
A nice to have.
Yes.
I call them solutions looking for problems.
Got it. So the conclusion of this podcast, from everything we've spoken to, is find a problem, solve it, make sure it's a painful problem, and be the best version of yourself. Because if you're the best version of yourself, your company will be the best version.
Because companies followed, there is a rule for this, I forgot the name now, but there's a guy who, like a scientist who studied organizations for a long time. And what he found is that essentially dysfunctional founders create dysfunctional companies that are beasts because at the end of the day, it's people and organization. It all starts from the top.
It's true.
The top is wrong. There's no structure. Everything's going to break.
And when you're calling organizations trying to sell a product, you can very quickly, before you even speak to the CEO, you almost know it's going to be dysfunctional, or you know who the CEO is going to be based off how organized the company is. You're like, just a very disorganized company. You're like, I think the CEO might be a disorganized guy. Okay, fair point. Then next week.
And to tie it back to AI, and so to tie it all back, know who you are, find the problem, ideally for rich customer, because you don't want broke customers that you can build them a solution that's not going to pay, and then apply AI as leverage. AI to build the product, AI to write your content, AI, and that is the leverage that you get. And with that leverage, you get, you get to go to market faster, you get to validate faster. I think, man, I'm old, I'm 40 something. I remember the time a lot of things that we do today in minutes used to be a week of work, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of work. Compliance used to take us months. Now it's like days. It's ridiculous.
The new era.
The new era.
Okay, thanks, Shukri.
Of course.